really a fascinating time to be alive. That's why I personally am so excited about Bitcoin because it's really a paradigm shift for humanity. I mean, money is one of the most important things in our lives, and it's completely changing right before our eyes. And most people don't realize it yet, which is, one of the reasons I wrote the book because, like you, I want everyone to be aware of what's going on so they can take advantage.
Maybe let's just directly jump into the podcast. And before we get started with all the topics and why it's such an amazing life to be amazing time to be alive, give the viewers and the listeners some background of who you are and especially why you're excited about Bitcoin.
So yeah, I'm a lawyer by trade. I've been practicing law here in the United States for some 35 years or more, and really don't have any special background in economics or certainly, computer science or any of that. I just kind of like, luckily or, being blessed to do it, I just kind of like stumbled into Bitcoin. A friend of mine at work introduced me to it, back in 2017. My orange pilling has been a really long, slow process. It just over time, I just became more aware of what Bitcoin really is and the phenomenal breakthrough that Satoshi did when he invented the blockchain. And as you think about it and read about it and look into it, you just realize how this is going to change everything. I really truly believe that that the blockchain in general and Bitcoin in particular is going to change everything about human life on this planet. So I'm just excited to do what I can to share this information with as many people as possible because, as Bitcoin is a wonderful thing and it can change your life in many beautiful ways. And frankly, Robin, I don't think it'll ever be too late to buy Bitcoin. I think it'll always be a good idea to trade fiat currency for Bitcoin. But obviously, the sooner the better. The one regret I have about Bitcoin is that I didn't buy more of it earlier. Because when I first was told about Bitcoin in 2017, which even then seemed late because it was already trading for like 2,500 US dollars for one coin. That seemed ridiculous to me. $2,500 for a piece of fake internet money? No way, right? Because I didn't understand. I didn't know. But now I would love to buy Bitcoin for $2,500, right? 5,000, 10,000. I'd love to buy it at any of those prices. All of those prices that I just sat and watched go by, So that's why I'm passionate about Bitcoin because the book that I wrote is really the conversation that I wish someone had had with me, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Because the information was out there. I was ignorant of it. And as much as, you and I are in the kind of like the Bitcoin echo chamber, especially on X, we're really kind of preaching to the choir about fiat currency and the evils of central banking and inflation and all that kind of stuff. So when you're in that echo chamber, it can seem obvious, right? That Bitcoin is the way and that fiat is a fraud and that we need to do everything that we can to dump our fiat as quickly as possible and to put it into hard money like Bitcoin. That seems obvious to us because we're in that echo chamber already. But remarkably, well over 90% of the world are not in that echo chamber. And all of this information is unknown to them. And so we're just super early, which is really why I wrote this book. I think it's a shame that so many people are ignorant about this technology and about this financial revolution that we're living through right now. I mean, these are for me, in my view, these are really exciting times to be alive. There is a real paradigm shift happening, and most of the world is is oblivious to it. So that's why I wrote a book about it, to try and spread the word.
It's an interesting one because like I truly believe, as you are, obviously, as I'm as all in Bitcoin as you can be. I think it's an extremely asymmetric bet, where you, if you are aware of Bitcoin and you educate yourself in Bitcoin, you know something that 99.99% of people don't know. It's almost like an insider trade. It's not
Yes.
like there's no insights in Bitcoin, because everything is on the blockchain. You can literally, everything that's inside in Bitcoin, everyone can see. But because the mainstream has done such a great job in making Bitcoin this niche speculative thing that's so bad, because they have done such a great job, for the few people that go beyond that thought experiment from the mainstream media, they have a huge advantage. So it's a blessing on a curse that the mainstream is talking very bad about Bitcoin, and it slowly gets better. But I still hear them saying very stupid things about Bitcoin that just are factually wrong. But because of that, it's an asymmetric bet. And at the same time, when we look about the risk reward ratio, I think 2025 is the best risk reward ratio for Bitcoin ever, because
Absolutely.
we have everyone on our side, and we still have like 99% to go in the upside.
Yeah, it really feels like a cheat code almost, because I'll be 63 this year, so I've been investing for most of my adult life, and I've invested in stocks and even some treasuries and things over the years, and like this, the stock market almost always goes up. I mean, it's like Bitcoin; it can be volatile, but over time, it's always going to go up. But even so, when I was investing in stocks, I was always concerned about whether or not I was investing in the right company, whether or not I was investing at the right time. Was I at the bottom of the market? Was I at the top of the market? And I never really knew. I was never really sure about my investment until a significant enough time had passed, and then the investment either did well for me or did poorly for me, and most of them did well. But Bitcoin, I have no fear about that. In fact, like many Bitcoiners, uh, I don't worry when the price of Bitcoin goes down. In fact, I get happy, right? Because it means I get to buy it for cheap, right? So I'm not worried at all when the price of Bitcoin goes down, because once you understand it, once you understand what it is, once you understand the difference between a truly scarce asset that the world has never known before. This is a truly new thing in the world. And scarcity, like Bitcoin provides us, did not exist before the blockchain. The closest thing, and I know you know this, but for the benefit of your listeners who may not, the closest thing that we had to scarcity before Bitcoin was gold. That was really the scarcest thing on the planet. But as scarce as gold is and was, and it is, I mean, even with our best technology and production, and we're still producing and mining gold every single year, but even with our best techniques and technology, we only add to the global gold reserve, something like 1.5% per year. Um, and that's far scarcer than any other mineral. I mean, silver, I forget the exact numbers, but silver is like we produce like 12 times more silver than gold, and other metals even more than that. Copper is way more than that. So before Bitcoin, the scarcest thing that we had was gold. But and gold, one of the reasons, one of the things I talk about in my book is one of the reasons that it's functioned as money for so many thousands of years is because gold is very, very, very durable. If you look at I don't know if you've ever seen the mask of Tutankhamun. That
No, what is
mask,
that?
yeah, so it's Tutankhamun was a pharaoh in Egypt like 3,000 years ago, and he was buried with this beautiful golden mask, a funerary mask, and they dug it up, and it's now on display in some museum. I think it's in London, if I'm not mistaken. But it did a tour many, many years ago, and I saw it here when it came to Los Angeles, and it's just beautiful. It's just as pristine as the day they made it, and that just goes to show the durability of gold. Unlike silver, which can tarnish, and other metals which can rust and decay and corrode. Yeah, there it is. That's the mask of Tutankhamun. It's a beautiful thing, and I actually saw that face to face when it came here to Los Angeles several years ago. That mask is 3,000 years old, and it doesn't look a day over. It doesn't even look a week old. I mean, it still looks brand new, and that's a testament to the durability of gold. It doesn't tarnish, it doesn't corrode, it doesn't decay, it doesn't rust. So that's one of the reasons that gold has functioned so well as money for years, because you can if your wealth is in gold, your wealth is going to last. It's not going to decay. And so because of that, just about all the gold that's ever been mined, going back not hundreds but thousands of years, is still in circulation, because it doesn't destroy, it doesn't decay. So if you don't lose it, right, it'll last forever. And so because of that, gold has one of the things I learned about as I was writing this book is the stock to flow ratio, which a lot of Bitcoiners are familiar with. But because of the fact that gold doesn't decay, and the fact that we've been mining it for thousands of years, it has a very, very, very high stock to flow ratio, because the stock of it, the existing supply of it, is so large compared to the tiny 1.5% that we mine every year. So generally speaking, when a commodity has a very high stock to flow ratio like that, it's considered to be scarce, and that increases typically the value of it. And like I said before, Bitcoin, gold was the scarcest thing there was. I think gold's stock to flow ratio is something like 54, 57, something like that, meaning that it'll take 54 or 57 years at the current rate of production to double the existing supply, which is very high. But Bitcoin is like 4 times that. It's like Bitcoin stock to flow is over like 200, which is like 4 times as high as gold. And then at the next halving, which is 2028, it's going to double again. So the stock to flow of Bitcoin is going to be something like 400, meaning it would take 400 years at then current production to double the supply of Bitcoin. And then at some point, I mean, long after you and I are still around to talk about it, the emission schedule is going to come to a stop. And around, I think it's 2140, there will be no more Bitcoin ever produced, which at that point will give Bitcoin an infinite stock to flow, which there's never been anything like that in the history of the known universe. Anything with an infinite stock to flow. So Bitcoin is just, it's a new thing in the world, man. It's a completely new thing, and it just baffles my mind that so many people don't know more about it. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, there are some natural, I think, challenges with that. People really need a confirmation of someone they trust. I literally got today a call of a buddy of my father, actually, and he has built multiple companies. He's very successful, and he always dismissed this Bitcoin thing, but he knew because of my father that I was this Bitcoin guy. And he asked me today, like, oh, how can I buy Bitcoin? And you know why he called me? Because his bank advisor all of a sudden said, oh yeah, I also have some Bitcoin. And all of a sudden his alarm thing were going on, like, oh, my bank advisor now has Bitcoin, like that. And it's those trivial small things, the social clues, those group psychology things where people are like, oh, now I need Bitcoin. And and I think it will be just, for most of the people, will just be too late when they get their social clue that they all of a sudden, because they don't do the homework and the research themselves, and they rely on social clues in their environment. And most social clues come too late. Like when grandpa and grandma tells you to buy Bitcoin, maybe it's already too late.
Yeah, and we Bitcoiners, and I'm as guilty of this as anyone. But we can sometimes feel like we're special, or we're smart, or we're better than other people because we understand Bitcoin and we grasp Bitcoin and we've allocated to Bitcoin, where most of the world is still filled with no coiners who have zero Bitcoin at all. So we can kind of get this kind of haughty attitude that we're, better than. But the truth of the matter is, Robin, we were all no coiners at some point in time, right? We all doubted Bitcoin at first, and until you become a Bitcoiner, everyone doubts Bitcoin until they understand Bitcoin. And none of us were born understanding Bitcoin. In fact, I don't know if you've in doing some of the research for my book, I read through some of the Satoshi's papers that the Satoshi Nakamoto Institute stores online, and I read a lot of his early writings, and including his announcement of Bitcoin to the cryptography mailing list, and almost everyone doubted it. And these are cryptographers, guys who understand cryptography and privacy. This is back in the these are the guys who invented PGP, pretty good privacy, which was the first cryptography algorithm that I ever encountered. I mean, these are guys who were in the know. And so when Satoshi announced Bitcoin to the mailing list with a link to the white paper explaining it, almost everyone doubted it. Almost everyone was skeptical of it. I think Hal Finney was one of the very few exceptions to that, who said, "Hey, this looks like a pretty good idea to me. Let's look into it." So, I would just like to admonish our fellow Bitcoiners. Let's not think too highly of ourselves. Let's not get too haughty about this, because at one point in time we were all no coiners. At one point in time we all doubted Bitcoin. Even after the first time when I learned about Bitcoin, again, a friend of mine at work told me about it. He had invested in it, and the number had gone up for him, so he was excited about that. And he told me about it, but I didn't understand it. I had no idea what it was, so I just threw a few bucks at it just to see what would happen. Um, and that was 2017, and I don't think I really truly grasped what Bitcoin is. And I'm tempted to say that I grasped everything that there is about Bitcoin, but that I don't think that'll ever happen, because the more I learn about Bitcoin, the more there is to learn, about Bitcoin. I've been going down this rabbit hole full bore as fast as possible, actively learning as much about Bitcoin as I can for at least a year now, and I learn something new every single day about Bitcoin. There's always a new aspect of it. I'll watch lots of podcasts, including yours and others, and different people will come with, different aspects about Bitcoin that I never even thought of before. So even though I've been actively traveling down this Bitcoin rabbit hole for over a year now, I still learn new things. In fact, the recent thing that I've come to learn about is the power law. I'm sure have you interviewed Giovanni
Yeah,
Santostossi?
he has been on the channel actually already 2 times, and
Okay.
I had I had a few other ones also. I had Sina on. He's also in the Paolo. I think Stephen Paranoid I also have had on, both actually 2 times. So I think I had already 6 or 7 videos dedicated on the power
On the
law.
power law?
But honestly, like I'm not a mathematician. Like I'm very bad in in math, worse than most people probably will think. But it's a fascinating topic. And yeah, well, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's just one of the newer things that I learned. And like you, I'm a lawyer, right? So I never studied computer science. I never did very well in math. In fact, one of the reasons I went to law school is because I was so bad in math. So I like you. I mean, I've listened to Giovanni talk about the power law. I've read his writings on X, and on, I think, he posts on Medium as well, and I do my best to try and understand it, and I think I do have some understanding of it. I do understand now what a log graph is and what it looks like, and what it means to say that something like Bitcoin does follow a power law. But I mean, I've given up thinking that I'm ever going to learn everything there is to know about Bitcoin. I just the more uh, aspects I learn about it, the more directions it can take you. If you want to go into cryptography, you can learn about, which is to interrupt myself. One of the things that's so fascinating to me about Satoshi Nakamoto, and obviously we don't know who he or she or they are, but if he's just one person, what a remarkable intellect that he must have, right? Because he had a deep understanding of not only money, but cryptography, distributed computing, uh, mathematics. I mean, what a phenomenal intellect he must have. Uh, and the invention that he gave us, 17 years ago, we're still learning it. There are now college courses devoted to blockchain technology, and this guy just invented it in his, on his laptop. It's amazing to me that there's so much to learn. It amazes me that there's still so much to learn about Bitcoin, and it really amazes me that there's still so many people who know so very little about it. Like I say, like you said, this is the asymmetric bet of a lifetime.
Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.